Hello, everyone. We have with us Professor Ralph W. Nicholas, who has devoted his life to research on India. Now, Professor Nicholas has been coming to India on and off almost regularly for the last 52 years. He came here first in 1960, between 60 and 62, has stayed in the villages of India, in one of the most backward villages, to be more precise. As a professor of anthropology, he has made several contributions to Indian studies in the States, United States of America. His major works consist of studies made of rites, rituals, practices, social norms, mores in certain specific areas of West Bengal, and that is where I met him. His main books have been Kinship in Bengali Culture, a fascinating book on how kinships work within our social systems. Fruits of Worship, that came out in 2003, was an immediate bestseller. It contained a whole series of articles that he had published. The Rites of Spring, it's about the Gajan worship or Gajan ritual of the villages of Bengal and many other states of India. And the last one, which has just come out, is on the Night of the Gods. This is about Durga Puja. I would start by asking you a question not exactly relevant to India, but to your own country, the United States of America. As an anthropologist, how would you look at the conglomerate or at the alliance or the loose federation of social groups that President Obama has been able to garner this time to win?
I'm delighted to be here, and I really did come to talk about India, but since the American election results have been such a major item of discussion in India as well as in the United States since I arrived, I must say, first let me express my personal delight in the outcome of the election. Since Barack Obama is a sometime colleague on the faculty of the University of Chicago, and I should add that Michelle Obama also worked for the University of Chicago. She is a lawyer as well, and she worked in several capacities in student affairs and also in the University of Chicago. And the Obamas live in our neighborhood. That is to say, we all live in Hyde Park, which is the neighborhood around the University of Chicago. There's better security around his house than around our house, but we're neighbors, and it's a great honor and a rare one to live in the same locality with the President of the United States and to see him reelected by, as you say, a very interesting amalgamation of, I won't call them interests, but there are certain elements in the composition of the electorate that came together to make his victory possible this time. Last time, during his first election, there was a real groundswell of support which spread across all sectors. But the second time around, white males were not quite as enamored with Barack as some of the other elements of the electorate.
Across the board?
Not across the board, but his attempt to appeal to the middle class, which he did repeatedly during the campaign, didn't appeal to the white male middle class, but it did appeal to the white female middle class. At the same time, of course, the growing Spanish-speaking sector of the American population appreciated the efforts that he's made. They didn't think that he'd made all the efforts they wished for, but efforts to secure a better standing for Hispanic people in the United States.
And other minorities.
And other minorities. African Americans have always been pretty solid behind him, even though they also are critical of the fact that he has not been notably a spokesman for African Americans while he's been in the White House. He's been more a spokesman for all of the American people. It was a difficult election, but he won those critical states which put him over the top in the electoral college, that was the task that he had to perform, and he performed it very brilliantly. I think that it appears that to this day, Karl Rove doesn't believe that that really happened. So, and if we have disappointed Karl Rove, I'm delighted.
Now, coming back to India, that was where I thought I should have started, is you were here in 1960 to 62 in an Indian village, living with nothing to distinguish you from the normal villagers, using their facilities as well. Now, you've been there again, I think, between 68 and 70. From the 60s to what you see now, 2000 to 2012, how much of a difference can you perceive? I mean, apart from what all of us see, in the attitudes, in the traditional attitudes of Indians that were deeply rooted within the psyche, in adopting to change.
The number of people who have left rural areas all over India to go to cities is very large. The reduction of the proportion of the population that is rural has gone down about 15% over the years that I've been working in India. Now, that still leaves a very large proportion of the population in rural areas. And rural areas tend to be more conservative in all respects than urban ones. If people who are translated from villages to cities are obviously separated from their ancestral homes. They're separated from the family obligations which they would normally be fulfilling if they were still living in the village. They're unable, they may still consider, and usually do still consider themselves to be very much part of that village and part of that household which they have left behind. And often they're providing financial support for people who are staying there, elderly parents and so forth. But they're living independently. The family that has gone to live in Calcutta is living independently of the elderly parents. They're constructing their own lives. The wife is able to make decisions that might have been made for her by the elders in the household had she been living in the village. This just in the normal course of events is going to bring about a attitude change on the part of people who have under other circumstances lived in subordinate roles and now are feeling themselves to be able to make autonomous decisions about family size, decisions about education, decisions that would have been made by collectivities had they remained in the village. At the same time, of course, the villagers are getting some benefit from people who have gone to work in the city. They feel the financial rewards of more highly paid occupations. People who have adequate incomes in the village don't leave. They stay there. If they have enough farmland, if they have one of the activities that's very popular in the area in Midnapur where I worked was pond cultivation. It's a very intensive form of agriculture. It doesn't take much land, which is great if you have very high population density. You have a small plot of alluvium that you can feed oilseed cake into. You can grow a very productive pond garden. So people are getting better incomes from intensive forms of agriculture.
Did it contribute to retention of people back in the villages?
No, I should have taken up this subject because, of course, some of the families that had been quite prosperous under the old regime, that is to say, who had been large landholders back in the 30s and 40s, and who found themselves with much reduced land holdings frequently put some of their resources into educating family members and finding middle-class urban occupations for them. And some of the families that I know rather well have really relocated their principal financial or economic activities to Calcutta and other cities, the Jamshedpur and
The nearer ones.
Asansol, into industrial areas where they have had middle class occupations and offices and occupations that require a good education. And they have then reinvested some of their earnings in the ancestral homes in the village to, they